request.
Hari Om.
Hari Om, Hari Om.
Shall I?
No, 1 minute. I'll just share the screen. Everyone, please
Okay.
mute yourselves. You can start if you already know the chanting. I'll
Okay.
share it for others. Wonderful. Please start.
Sadashiv Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad-pada Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Naktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Very good.
Was that Vahai right this time?
Yes, very, very good.
Okay, thanks.
Excellent. And with practice, it'll get automatic.
Okay.
By the end of another chapter, it'll be on your lips, on your tongue. Easy for you. So we are doing the finish chapter 1 of the Gita. It is titled Arjuna Vishada Yoga. Vishada means a state of mind which is bordering to depression, a state of mind which is not happy, sad, in grief. This is the starting point. Shastra's vision is, and when I say Shastra, I mean in the Vedic outlook, through the Vedas, the knowledge, essence of that knowledge is, first and foremost, it is addressing human beings, irrespective of generation, caste, creed, etc. As long as there's a human being, there will be relevance of Vedas in one's life. Vedas also give humans a choice to follow whatever is written or said there, or not to follow. This is a part of the teaching that comes in the Vedas, that human being has a capacity to perform purusharth, which is completely independent from how his impulses or his prakrit nature would push him to act. So there are verses, one of the verses which is very common is, there are a few things which are common between animals and humans. They have hunger, common. They have thirst, common. They have progeny, the desire for it, common. The need for comfort, common. What is making a human stand out from the rest of living beings is their capacity to be independent, function independent, think independent. Whatever nature presents as circumstances, they have a method of organizing the information and utilizing it to overcome whatever's thrown from the world in terms of their life struggle. Another unique thing that they have more developed, so this is more developed than all other living beings, most developed is a capacity to think what is true, what is false, what is real, what appears real, to inquire into the nature of what can be the substratum which holds life, exploring it. Science is entirely developed on the same instinct. It's an urge developed in a human being because of the faculties that it finds itself capable of, functions it finds itself capable of. While the human body is a product of nature, that capacity to discern that makes him different from other life forms, that and the capacity to discern what is truth and not, explore, find out. That thinking involves deep comprehensions. It is like digging into a mine to extract that little gold or some precious stone. It is going into deep thinking, contemplation, with a very focused mind on a topic which doesn't seem to be just sensory first level of information. So your first level of information will present there is a world of objects, etc. But if you have to find out what sustains life, where has life come from? What happens after death? Is actually there any connection between birth in a place at a time to a family? Are there any connections at all? Is there a power to which, if we plead or we pray, if there is a higher being who will listen to us, who will answer our prayers? Is there something which is the starting point of life and creation? Will it last forever? Is this going to continue? There are eras which have come and gone. History tells us. News is there's an asteroid which has to come, which will again, who knows, take life away. Very fascinating that we have come so far in our understanding through science that we are a speck in the universe. There's no doubt about that to all of us. It's no longer a very surprising information. It's not an exclamatory oh, really? We are just a speck in the universe? And nobody says that anymore. Everybody knows we are a speck in the universe. I mean, you just look up in the sky and you know what is your presence in the whole creation. That is it. That's your presence in the creation. Where 99.9999% things you still do not know. Vedas is that body of knowledge which has come to answer questions which are not apparent to the senses, but they have been arrived through a process of thinking, different layers of anumana. Anumana is inferences drawn. It's not speculation. It is not hypothesis. It's not anything that is imaginary. The whole vision is one vision. They've arrived at one vision. To answer all these questions that can come up to any human being at any point in life, as long as there's a human body. Any question that you can think of which pertains to life and its support, anything to do with it, there has to be a unifying knowledge which can, when known, put a human being to rest, because then you can say, I know now. That Veda says, one conclusion that they have arrived at is the whole source and support of life. From where it emerges, where it is sustaining, the point means it's not a point, the स्थान of manifestation. जब एक पेड़ होता है तो पेड़ कहाँ से निकला है? So it's not really, you can't say it is at a place, but you can locate it at a place. That's the root. What is the root of life? Where is it rooted? That root is sustaining life. And at death, what happens? Vedas say, through the knowledge of the Upanishads are addressing all these questions, and it says, the same place rooting where it has happened, from where life has emerged, is the same place where after death it goes into unmanifest. What goes into unmanifest? The physical body will disintegrate with whatever material it is made. What is it made of? Anything that's the world is made up of is what this body is also made up of. It's a part of the world. Whatever you find as a substantial material of the world, keep reducing it, which you cannot reduce any further. 5 elements which you cannot reduce any further. Those 5 elements is what makes your body. But in the body, there is this fantastic expression of I, me, that each one of us, every living being holds. And that I, arrogator of what? That I, cognition, मैं हूँ, that is so interlinked, जुड़ा हुआ to the body. It is so one with the body that a normally average non-thinking person, or thinking in the direction of survival and needs and etc., will not be able to see that they are actually juda hua but can be separated. Normal person will miss this. Entire life will miss it, because the attention is drawn outward through the senses. The direction of the senses is outward. One of the Upanishads says it. Direction of the senses is outward, so our attention remains outward. Our mind remains outward. So my engagement of the sense of individuality remains outward. It's centered outside. So we miss. Very evident it is that sense of I has got so intertwined with the sense of the body that they appear to be one. Veda says, entirely through the Upanishad, that this is the seed. Now, the seed or the seed, when you, with the sense of egoism, I, connected to the body, generate actions. What are the actions? Your body, physical, your mind, mental actions, your speech, vocal actions. Thought is an action. Speech is an action. Physical body performs actions. जहां भी कर्म में मैं शरीर के साथ जुड़ के कर्म हुआ है, now the cycle is कर्म is inseparable to its फल. फल से अलग नहीं कर सकते कर्म को. तो जो कर रहा है वो करता है, उसी को फल मिलेगा. Now this process, फल, क्योंकि हम we are not doing one action then one action. What is an animal's life, averagely speaking? Even if you have a pet, what is a pet's life? Those who have a pet, what is their life really? You wake up, you play a little, you are hungry, look for food, then you are tired, then you sleep, then you again wake up, and you again look for food. In between, there are some physiological processes that go on for every animal, and so too for a human being. Common. Everyone performs actions in a human state. Animal cannot do anything other than what he's designed by default. Very little scope they have. They have, but it's very, very little. Very rare. It's like very rarely you'll find this. Nowadays, I saw very recently, a cow is said to be so meek, can never attack you, however much you hurt a cow. And yet there is a viral video floating around where a cow is attacking someone, and you can see anger on the cow's face. Very rare it would be. It's not completely not there. But a human being very rarely will conform to what is naturally only that much. So far, everyone's agreeing? We are together, all of us?
Yes.
Not. Okay. Every human being puts in something in this combination of I with the body, generates the action, and these actions are innumerable now. As a result of which, the one who is going to bear the consequences, the results of those actions, they will come in time. Some actions are immediate. Not all actions are immediate because some actions take time to finish also. Like Bhagavad Gita, we've started a month or so ago. It is not going to get over straight away. It's an action started. It will take time to end. Actions have different intentions behind them. Actions are performed with different intensities. Intentional intensities are different. Focus, attention is different. Conditions are different. There is just so many variations that the one who will be bearing means who will face the outcome of the actions, the one who will be ready to receive the fruit when it matures itself, will also find to mature you need to have a body. To experience the result, it will have to be manifest. There will have to be someone there to receive the fruit. Veda's vision is that this is a cycle which is beginning less in a way. It's nothing that you can say, I started at this time. My I sense started now. You can't say that. The minute you came to senses, you were saying I. Even when you were not in your senses, means you were really a toddler. A toddler also has a sense of I, but can't express it, is not recognizing it, but has a sense of I. This cycle perpetuated keeps one. Shastra's drishti is, it keeps you born again and again. If one is able to reflect on this much, ये तो सुना हुआ है, in our culture ये कोई नई बात नहीं है. But the point is, नई बात तब आती है जब हम उसके ऊपर विचार करते हैं. Do I understand really the statement? Do I understand the gravity of this statement? That there is a birth again and again, and there is a logic behind it. A logic which my senses will not see. But it's a logic which you cannot disprove also. If you can't prove it, you can't disprove it also. In fact, there are many reasons to accept why this could be a possibility. Seeing the variations around of different lives who go through different things, when all of us are wanting the same thing. Isn't it a very huge surprise actually? It puts one to wonderment. All of us want food and water and shelter and comfort and a little affection, and we all want joy, and we all want, who doesn't want all this? Which human being doesn't want all this? And who amongst the animals would not want this? Forget animals. Plants, which plant doesn't want this? Wants its food, wants its water, has its own physiological cycle it goes through. This is a huge awakening to recognize that this cycle, that it keeps me perpetuated. A mature thinking person is able to hold on to this perception and accepts it without condemnation, accepts it as a possibility, and wonders, asks, wants to know, does this end ever? Okay, I don't know when it started. Okay, there is a continuity. Okay, I can be watchful of my karmas to some extent. None of us can be watchful of our karmas to all the extent. They cannot be under your supervision all the time. There are so many things that have become habituated to us. In certain companies, you are the most noble person. Wait, if someone keeps triggering the thing that irritates you, you may have patience up to a point. At some point, you will flip. And then you said, okay, forget dharma, forget anything else in the world. What is right or wrong? Kya farak padta hai? Who's bothered? Who has seen anything? Let me just, first of all, solve this, what is in front of me. At that time, you will care no hoots, and you should not be caring. Obviously, it doesn't matter. The perception of this going to have a repercussion on me will not play importance at that time. There'll be other things that you will say, okay, let me attend to that. The question finally would be that how does the person who will have this maturity in thinking, and when they come to this question of asking, kya hai? Am I going to be able to ever end this cycle? What is the way to end it? That is the cream of a human being. Every human being is not going to come up with this question. Every human being will not identify. पढ़ भी लोगे तो भी तुम्हें लगेगा ये कितना क्या? You will dismiss it as saying, how is it relevant? How is it relevant? How will it give me money? How will it bring me fame? How will it bring me security? How will it bring me the loved one? What does it give me? Very few people see the reality of the question that has come to them. There is a reality in that question, that if I'm born, I have a short life. I do not know how long it is. It can be tomorrow, the last day. It can be 1 year later. I have no idea about the next moment. Which one of us doesn't know this? All of us know. Next moment is uncertain. Nothing can be confirmed here. Yet, it does not make us, averagely speaking, desperate. I'm using the word desperate. Desperate to seek an answer. सत्य क्या छोड़ो, इन सबको बांधने वाला, is there something? There should be one body of knowledge, no, that can answer all questions. There are so many viewpoints, which is another topic I'm not touching now, it can confuse. The viewpoints are valid. But Vedas have brought the knowledge in such a way that you can extract different viewpoints, but you still cannot deviate away too much from the truth. And what is the truth? The truth is, as long as this combination of your eye sense with the body and your cognition of yourself as an individual, jiva, that jivatvam that you arrogate to yourself, I am an individual. मेरी भी personality है. I have built it like this. I am a person with these likes and dislikes. This is what I want. This is what I like. This is what I hate. I don't like. I don't want this. I want to do this. All of us is fascinating. The more one reflects, the more one thinks. All of us have the same eyes and ears, and except for the two genders, or okay, third. Except for this, where in our inner thoughts are we not like another? If you have fear, I have fear. If you have anger, I have anger. If I have attachment, you have attachment. If you have ego, I have ego. And yet, the few people who get troubled by this, Shastra says, this cycle that you keep yourself in, which is keeping you unhappy, dissatisfied, looking always outward, कुछ मिल जाए, कुछ पकड़ में आ जाए, some shanti, some happiness, even if it's temporary, doesn't matter. So we all have our hobbies, we all have a set of friends at the end of the day, we all have certain things that we like, we hold on to that because we think they give us happiness. That little thing that keeps us bound together. This is called samsara. What is its lakshana? Its lakshana is, it is constantly banged by sense of loneliness, sense of separation, sense of otherness, sense of wanting more. It's constantly pricked by these. Even if I'm in the most happy state of mind, whatever I like as my ultimate happiness, supposing my desire was to climb the Everest, what will be my ultimate happiness? Because I'm not going to climb it. If I have a desire today, I can't climb it tomorrow. I'll prepare 10 years, 15 years. Finally, I reach Mount Everest and I put that flag, Indian flag over there. Summit I have conquered. What then? What after that? What will happen? I've achieved it. What after that?
Jumping.
Sorry? Okay, that you can do even before you go to Everest. Okay, I do bungee jumping, and then what? Paragliding. Okay, then what? Question is, okay, I go deep down in the ocean. Then what? Life will be gone. Don't take the question literally.
Insatiable.
Insatiable, excellent. Insatiable. Insatiable will be that. That insatiability of wanting this now and wanting, that is samsara lakshana.
Ma'am, does it mean attachment?
Yeah, it
Sorry.
also attachment. Attachment is like a very superficial first identifying link, but it is not the only thing that is there.
Okay.
It's not the only thing. So now what happens? From where does this all come? So if you followed the, as much as whoever's following the first chapter, what has happened to Arjuna? He's expressing his pangs of unhappiness. It's that moment of unhappiness that has now erupted out of nowhere. That is samsara. And this has the potential to keep him in the cycle. Shastra says, through the Upanishad, that the root cause of even this judna of ahankar with sharir, the root cause is not being able to see the one substratum that links everything together, which inheres everything, which is actually, you can't call it a particle, you can't call it matter. It is that which you can recognize but cannot objectify. And the term given for it is Brahman. That Brahman which inheres everything. Inheres means it is the sole support of everything. In it, everything disappears. From it, everything comes. By it, everything is sustained. Itself is not a part of this. It's not a part of it. It's like part of your body is your eyes and your digestive system, etc., etc., your stomach. Brahman is not a part of it. And yet, everything depends on it. As long as this is not known, and not intellectually, but in recognition, as long as you do not come to recognize that one substratum that binds everything, that holds everything, that is the true nature of your own self, so long the cycle is not ending. You can control it to some extent. The nature of your experience you can control to some extent. How do you control? Because karma starts it. Manage your karmas. How to manage the karma? Yes, you will have to know that. So now Shastra says, if samsara is the lakshana, and you have come to recognize that what is the way out, or what is the solution for it, then if not knowing Brahman is the Karan for all this, obviously the effect will end when you know the cause. The effect will end, samsara will end when Brahman is known as nature, one's own self, inseparable me. Body, is it inseparable me? This much I think all of us can answer. Is body inseparable me?
No.
No, because body
Ends.
ends. It's not inseparable me. That means there is an inseparable me, Shastra says. That inseparable me, when it is registered and known, that knowledge that you are Brahman will end the samsara. What is the Bhagavad Gita's prayojan? That samsara that Arjuna has erupted with, Bhagwan's desire, Krishna's desire, quote unquote, Krishna's going to give him the address, answer, to point from the standpoint of how to end the samsara. But how to end the samsara cannot be another path away from what our life today is. How to end that samsara has to happen, that has to be inclusive in my position and place where I am now. I cannot, by going to Everest also, I will not be able to separate the me. Inseparable me, I cannot know. Going to moon, I cannot know. Going to sleep, I cannot know. Going into coma, I cannot know. How will I know where I am, how I am, what I am today? It is this which is the starting point. And the knowledge has to surface and start displacing or start correcting within the mind that I have now. So first chapter, when we said Arjuna Vishad, the grief of Arjuna, representing all of us, that grief, yes, in a very natural, normal way, when you hear other thing, it is said to be as, and he says it also because he's got shoka. So shoka karan is attachment to your kith and kin. But it is not just attachment that Bhagavad Gita is answering. Answer is not remain detached. And therefore you'll be free of it, free of this yearning, free of this wanting. Then my practice should only be remain detached. So any school of thought will say only remain detached. You are still not coming to the root cause. So what is Bhagavad Gita going to address? Finally, that's something we'll have to remember through the 18 chapters. Krishna's point will be, he is going to address avidya. But Arjuna is standing in a situation like all of us amidst life, and knowledge will be given how to travel inward from where I am to the point where I can recognize who I am. So how do I make those inward changes? What is it that needs to be corrected so that the sense of I with the sharir जो जुड़ा हुआ है थोड़ा सा ढीला हो जाए, loose as in it should thin away, it should wane away a little, so that there is more capacity to see things as they are. If I am completely united to my own body, जुड़ा हुआ, then I only see things from my perspective. As that loosens a bit, the perspective widens. And in that wide perspective, that's how the rishis and everyone, it comes to that. So, summarizing this now, what I'm saying, so far I have said, Samsara is the erupted cycle recognized through this constant want and pangs of unhappiness in different shades. Answer to that is given is amidst where we stay in the world, where we are placed in the world. The cycle is perpetuated through karmas. Karmas come about because of this, it's called tadatmyam, oneness, that I feel I am the body, मैं यही हूँ, I am born, I will die, etc. That thinking that is there, that thinking has come from where? That thinking has come from not knowing that one thing, which is the truth of existence. And it's not limited to my body. It is not limited to human beings. It is not limited to life on this planet. It is the source of creation. And that source of creation is recognizable. Here is how Vedas bring the knowledge to human beings. So, first chapter is describing only recognizing the samsara. What is it? Quickly summarizing the verses now. First verse, Dhritarashtra reveals his samsaric mind. So all of you who have done it, you should be able to quickly start revising it. How does he reveal his samsaric mind? He uses the word Dharma kshetre, Kurukshetre, the land of the Kurus. All explanations have been given, so I'm not going to go into them, which is supposed to be the land of Dharma, Yuyutsavaha, desire to fight. Now that, what is the samsara shown here? Mamakaha Pandavaha, sons of Pandu and mine. That separation, that ahankar has surfaced to such an extent that he only has kept a boundary of his existence to his own children. His boundary of existence is limited to his self and maximum extended to his children, not even to his lineage. Because in his lineage, if he had included, Pandavas were included. This has brought about the samsara. It's kept him unhappy through his life. Then Sanjaya's narration, and in Sanjaya's narration, the important thing was he had addressed Dhritarashtra as Raja, that he could have stopped the war, but he did not, and that Duryodhan approaches Acharya. There is a psychological reason. So Duryodhana will start revealing his samsaric mind from the 3rd verse onwards, when he approaches Acharya and not Bhishma as he should have, who is the commander-in-chief otherwise, but he goes to Drona first, and all the psychological implications we saw. Now 3rd to 11th verse is Duryodhana expressing his samsaric mind, and he says again, Adanes, Pandu Putra, and Mahatim Chamum, this huge army. So he's exaggerated in his mind. His mind has exaggerated the strength of the army, where the fact was that Kauravas had a larger army. But to him, that jealousy and that anger, frustration and that bitterness and that feeling betrayed, etc., are projecting the situation as of exaggerating the situation more than what the fact is. So it's a sign when you start exaggerating, then your mind's disturbed. Even when there is, supposing your own child or someone is unwell. If you're a rationally, normally rational person, however close the person is, you will say, okay, next kya karna hai, next kya karna hai. But if you're already very deeply attached or not, as the Shastra says, your buddhi is not under your supervision, the emotion can overpower immediately and you'll fluster and you will not know what is next, etc. These things are happening every day in our lives. So he says, Mahatim Chamum, and then he starts to tell Drona, as if telling him, inciting in him, removing that soft nature of Drona so that his bitterness comes up, Drona's bitterness comes up. Tava Shishya, Drupada Putra, bringing that negative feeling in Drona by pointing. The words are very, very, they're the worst weapon, actually. Words are the worst weapon. They can destroy empires. They can destroy relations. They will destroy anything. Drupada Putrena, Tavat. So Duryodhana is using his strongest weapon, use of his tongue, words, and bringing about change in Drona's mind. And then again he continues till the 11th verse. We saw all these Atra Shura, Maheshwasaha, calling the army of the Pandavas as having a lot of heroes, wise, brave people with a capacity to find Maharathis. They are capacity to fight 10,000 people at a time, etc. Viryavan, all these, he enumerates about 16, 17 of these great Rajas, that enumerating ek karke, as if telling Drona that please watch, look at all this. So till 11th verse, all this is happening, and then in the 8th verse, did I say? Okay. So in the 8th verse, no, 9th verse, Anyecha Bahavaha Shuraha. Having till the 6th verse, I had brought about a change. Till the 6th verse, he is mentioning all the Pandava army. 7th verse, he starts mentioning his army. Only one verse he takes to mention his army, one sentence, and then many brave people also. But now Duryodhana reveals his own self again. Madarthe, they are all assembled here to fight for my sake. Kyakta jivitaha, and they are ready to give up their lives. They are ready to be killed for my sake. That my sake, my army, mere liye. And then again his exaggerated mind, that those people, we though have an unlimited army under Bhishma, They have a limited army, but they're also very strong and powerful. And then insecurity surfaces, and he tells in the 11th verse to everybody, including Drona, he's ordering like a Raja, and he says everybody should protect Bhishma. Because Bhishma, as long as he's there, there is hope that they will win the war. Then we saw that Bhishma registered that he's getting disturbed and he's tampering the morale of his army, suspicious mind, skeptical mind, and all the negative things in your thought bring about an environmental deterioration. Bhishma sensed the deterioration, so he blew his conch to lift up his spirits, but as a result of which the entire army blew their respective conches, but they blew it randomly. So 12th and 13th verse, Kauravas are blowing their conches. 14th to 18th verse, we saw Pandava army starts to respond to the Kauravas blowing of the conch, and the Pandavas first to start the conch was Krishna, and then one by one, in a very systematic, disciplined way, the army blows their respective conches. The leaders of that army blow their respective conches up to the 18th verse, and then the numbering, I don't know, I was changing, maybe I've picked up another copy. Sound of Pandavas conches unsettles Kaurava camp. So the minute they see the difference of the two armies was even revealed in the way the conches had blown. A part of the story. Now starts Arjuna, our main character. And he says, Arjuna is introduced in this, that his chariot, Krishna in front, Kapidhvajaha, flag has Hanuman, and seeing all of them, he tells Rishikesham, what does he say? Now, 21st verse till 30th verse, Arjuna's samsaric mind begins to come up. And that's the point of recognition. He tells Krishna to take the chariot in between. He wants to assess. So far, his buddhi is operating, but then it starts first with Dhritarashtrasya Durbuddhehe. He says these are those who have been misguided. Their buddhi is dusht, manipulative. You find a lot of people in the world like that. Their desires to fulfill, they're manipulating people and environment all the time. In relations, at a home level also, this is happening all the time. There'll be one member in a family of 5 also, there'll be one member who's his desires or her desires are so strong and powerful that they will want to control the environment to fulfill their end. So, their buddhi works only for their sake. That's a durbuddhi, dushta buddhi. They're not even working for the family, only working for their sake. Dhartarashtrasya, he says these are the misguided children of Dhritarashtra, come with an idea to fight the war. And then, having said this, he says, Sanjay is now reporting in this verse, he says, Krishna takes it, places the chariot in between the army, and then he places it right in front of Bhishma and Drona, and tells Arjuna, Pashyaitan Partha, look, behold, those who have assembled together. And that was enough. 3 words were enough to shake Arjuna up completely. And then he saw in front of him. Now he started seeing what? He started seeing uncles and fathers and grandfathers and children and grandchildren, friends, relatives. Now all that, where has all this come from? Now he's identified with himself in the body. And as a person, you always have aham and mama. You relate to you have your relations, so that surfaced up in him. And then Kripaya paraya vishtaha. His mind changed from that strong-willed, clear-headed Arjuna, focused, skilled. There are not enough words to describe how beautiful a person he was. And suddenly, Kripaya avishtaha, his mind changed when his cognition of his bandhavas came, cognition of his own people came to him. His mind changed. And Vishidan, immediately he fell. It didn't take an end of the chapter. The minute he saw these people, at that moment, Vishidan, he went into Vishad. He went into doubt. His mind started to doubt the reason of their engaging a war, being engaged, starting a war. And then Arjuna says, he gives his own reasons and justifications. So when the previous one was Arjuna's samsaric condition surfaces, up to the point that his mouth is parched, his hands are shaking, etc., etc. And shokam, he slips into shoka because he says, I cannot stand clearly. When your mind is very disturbed, your physical body also gets affected. They are linked together. So the emotion so overpowered him that it slipped into his body. And then 31 to 37, he starts justifying his thinking. And we saw those reasons, and he's trying to convince Krishna now that there is something wrong. We have missed looking at some important things. We have brought the army, we have qualified ourselves, we have done everything, calculated everything. They had calculated to the extent how much they had carried cooks with them, and both armies had to. Such deep planning had gone into the war. But Arjuna suddenly says we missed a few important factors. What are those factors? He starts narrating. He says, I don't have a desire for victory. I don't need kingdom. I don't have any such. So we saw all these 5 points. And then he says, what is the use of all this? If all the people that are related to me are going to die, if they won't be there, then my victory means nothing. Our victory would mean nothing when I lose all my people. So he uses confused state, which we've just recently seen, so I don't think you'd be forgetting that. Atatai, he calls them all. And Dhritarashtra's sons, they have already committed the sins. It is proper to punish them in that sense. Whoever performs injury to another, who is in a helpless state, that person by law should be punished. This is Vedic view. So anybody who has floated around that, oh, ahimsa, 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 ahimsa never meant not fighting for your dharma, not upholding dharma. It doesn't mean you should be, this is all one slap and another, this is all misinterpretation and maybe purposely spread. Non-violence is a beautiful, we nourish it, we cherish it, but its situation arises where you are never going to be violent. That's the power of this Vedic culture. We never will instigate a violence, but if there is a harm coming upon us unrighteously, then no one says you should not defend yourself. Shastra doesn't say. In fact, our gods have weapons in their hands. All our gods have weapons in their hands. On one hand, they have a Jnana Mudra, Ashirvad Mudra. On the other hand, they have different weapons. Gods themselves have weapons. So this is a very wrong misnomer in the society that you're not supposed to protect your own self. It's wrong. So he says these are atatais, but according to Arjuna, being a good person, he says, my dharma is that I should not fight these people. They're our own people. हम में से एक को तो पीछे होना चाहिए ना, like when you're children and if you're fought with your siblings and you really get into that fighting mode, really as a sibling. What did your mother, who's very pained because she knows that you're always fighting, even if you're children, so she will tell one of the two who are fighting always, she will end up saying the one who she thinks is going to listen, समझ जाएगा and say, क्यों लड़ते हो, तुम पीछे हट जाओ, तुम चुप रहो, something like that she'll say. So Arjuna is saying the same thing. He says at least one of us should stop fighting, one of us should withdraw. So this is saying that we are doing it for our own family, we are doing it for our own kul. He's not wrong, he's right. A good person would think like that. And then 38 to 44, Arjuna, because Krishna was silent, brings in more dharmic implications, because this is a dharmic war. Fought for dharma. That was a conversation. They had round table conferences when they were discussing the reason of the war. Dharma was predominant. Krishna must have infused it in them because it was a part of their discussions. He must have bombarded it so much. As a Kshatriya, they understood it was their right to fight and protect those who are being harmed by force. So a ruler must protect those people and those customs and those etc. So he says, even from the standpoint of dharma, now what started as a doubt in normal, what you hear Gita all around has become famous as attachment, but let us keep it as samsara. It is a seed of mamatvam. Therefore, yes, you can call it attachment, but this mamatvam is not the point of solution giving in the Gita, that I should not have attachments. After many years of listening to Gita, people end up learning only this much. Gita is telling us not to be attached. Gita is not saying don't be attached. You will be attached to something or the other. But attachment should not misguide you. Keep your attachment under the supervision of your thinking. But here Arjuna's feelings have taken him over, and he says dharma itself will be, we are actually doing adharma. And the reason for adharma is because the kulas are going to be destroyed, and the one who destroys the lineages himself is committing a crime, himself is doing papam. So 38 to 44, he gives all these reasons. There'll be intermixture of castes because dharma, men will go, so there'll be adharma in families will rise, and therefore women will marry out of caste, or men will seek women forcibly, and as a result of which you will have children being born in all kinds of ways, and therefore those children will not be able to perform karmas, therefore those karmas not given to pitras, therefore the pitras will also have a adhogati, they will also fall, and therefore, oh Krishna, you are supposed to be the wise one, why can't you see, this is all wrong what we are doing. You should have told us, or you are the one who's the wise one, you should have told us कि हम तो गलती करने जा रहे हैं, and I am reminding you that देखो हम क्या करने जा रहे हैं, ये तो सब गलत है. So then 45th and 46th verse, now since Krishna has made no correction at all so far, that that little anxieties also must be coming up in him. क्या मैं सच बोल रहा हूँ, क्या मैं ठीक बोल रहा हूँ? He needs validity from Krishna. He's the only person whose opinion would matter to Arjuna. So he's not getting any indication from Krishna whether he's saying what he's saying is right or wrong. So that takes over, and in 45th verse and 46th verse, his confused thinking takes root, strength, and overpowers completely his reasoning mind. That parched mouth and shakiness in his body has so become strong that he's lost his way. He doesn't know what is right and wrong. And he concludes in the 46th verse to say, I'm ready to be killed by them. I will not lift up my arms to protect myself. This is wrong. Either we withdraw. Actually, what he's trying to say is, let us withdraw from the war. One of us backs off. We should be the one who backs off because we see the consequences are going to be detrimental to everyone in the society. There's no good happening, even if we win the war. So let us withdraw from the war. And we get nothing, no problem. If Krishna still would have said, no, you have to fight, he says, I'm not picking up my arms. I'd rather die in this war so that I don't have to face all the papa karma, etc. Then the last verse, 47th verse, is the conclusion. Sanjaya draws to remind, summarizing Arjuna's samsaric state. And he says, in this way, Arjuna just collapses, gives up his bow and arrow, drops it. Pehle to slip ho raha tha, he completely drops it. And he sits, humps down, dejected, confused, lost. I'm sure आंखों के आगे अंधेरा हो रहा होगा. बुद्धि पे complete darkness must have taken over. He doesn't know what is right or wrong. And that's the point at which acharyas have separated the chapter. Gita is not separated as chapters in the Mahabharata. The conversation continues, therefore, in the second chapter up to the 9th, 10th verse. It will continue. Arjuna is still going to continue in the second chapter. But acharyas have concluded it over here. And to conclude a chapter, they have given this at the end of every chapter. In this particular book, we have an extra line. Mostly you will find Om Tat Sat. Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade. This will be common after every chapter. Excuse me. And then the chapter name and the chapter number. And here in this particular book, they have also said in the Mahabharata, which is made up of 10,000 verses, this text Samhita written by Vyasa in the Bhishma Parva is the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, which is actually Shri. We have done this word in the beginning, Srimad Bhagavad Gita. That is to be brought here. Knowledge which is given by Bhagavan himself. Bhagavat, those words are Bhagavan's words, and it is rich of wisdom. Shri, it is rich in wisdom. What is the equivalent of that knowledge? Upanishadsu. The knowledge is equivalent to that which is in the Upanishad. So Gita is called another Upanishad in that sense. In fact, not just Gita, every verse of the Gita is an Upanishad. It's complete sometimes. So complete that you just feel you don't even need another verse. And most often the sincere ones, they just know what is the important thing because it can take months and years to establish even in one change within oneself. So every verse is so deep to bring about a change in oneself. If, as Veda says, if you wish it, that's your wish. And then that Upanishad, so what is the content of a Brahma Vidya is the content. That Ekavakyatvam running through Shastra, giving you the knowledge of Brahman you are. That Brahman is one common substratum, inhering, infusing everything. That Brahma Vidya. And then how do you know that Brahma Vidya? Because today we are attached to our senses, our feelings, etc., our identities. Very limited view of life we have, really speaking, most of us. Hardly anything. Very hardly different from an animal, truly speaking. Most of our human life is going very parallel to what an animal's life would go. Problem with the human life is you have free will also, so we complicate it further. An animal doesn't complicate it. We complicate it many layers. So, to prepare ourselves for Brahma Vidya, we need also knowledge. Like I said, where we are, how we are, to introduce this knowledge in our life. Therefore, it is a Yoga Shastra. Yoga Shastra means it will give us the practice necessary. It gives us practice, not like how you would say 5 बार ये करो, 10 बार ये करो. It's not a practice like that. It is a knowledge base again. In that knowledge, what should you operate from? Because of which you will get prepared to receive the knowledge, Brahma Vidya. So it is a Yoga Shastra, gives you qualification. Sri Krishna Arjuna Samvadaha. It is in the form of a samvad. There is a samvad, there is a vivad. And forgotten the third one. So vivad is what? Vivad we all know very well. Mostly yahi ho raha hota hai. If you look at the channels, news channels, what is happening? Vivad. If you say something, I will say opposite of it. I don't care you're right or wrong. I don't want to know what is your point. You said this, therefore I will say the opposite of it. No? Whatever you say, I have to say the opposite. Vivad, argumentation. There is an argumentation. So even in our Sahana Bhavatu, that may we not hate each other, may we not argue with each other. So this is in the form of, no, not Anuvad, something else. So this is Samvad. It is a proper conversation, which is very rare in the world. Very, very rare, I think. That's my opinion, of course. It doesn't need to be truth. It's my opinion. I don't think people have conversations in the world. Krishna and Arjuna, when you read this, you realize what is called a conversation. It's a conversation happening. So it's a samvad. And chapter name, Arjuna Vishada Yoga, Prathamo Dhyaya. So this is like a colophon at a book when it's written. Yeah, it's a dialogue. Samvad, correct. And it is also called Pushpika. Pushpika Vakya. Pushpika means kind of ending stanza, which ends the chapter. So here the chapter 1 ends. And after this, in chapter 2 again, you will see Sanjaya Vacha. Then again only one verse Krishna starts. And then again Arjuna will, from 3rd till the 8th verse, he is showing his dejected state. His spirits have completely fallen down and his mind is so confused, he doesn't have the energy to lift up his bow and arrow. He has no will left to fight. That's his condition. And then Rishikeshaha will start from the 11th verse. Sanjaya will give these 2 verses in between. Now, this much is enough to understand one of the things that is always spoken of in the Shastra is, when you start seeing the Shastra, is Anubandha Chatushtayam. I'm picking it up here because now you will see the Adhikari. Anubandha Chatushtayam means Chatushtayam is 4. Anubandha means what connects it. Based on determining these 4, you can arrive at what is the knowledge, how useful is it, how does it connect to you, your life, your interest, what is the purpose of it, knowing which either the student continues, the one who has an interest continues, or else looks wherever else they have the interest in. And also, Anubandha Chatushtayam, if it establishes, the topic is established as Brahma Vidya, then that book becomes a Shastram. So Gita also has an Anubandha Chatushtayam. The 4 factors on which you examine, you qualify whether this knowledge is worthy or not. What is the Gita's 4 factors? Who is the Adhikari? Who should be the Adhikari of Gita to receive the knowledge of the Gita? Who is an Adhikari here? We have already hinted quite well in the first chapter. There are 3 Samsaris, Dhritarashtra, Duryodhan and Arjun. Who is the Adhikari amongst the 3? Who's received the Gita from the story itself?
Arjun.
Arjun. So Arjun and his state of mind that you have understood so far, even if he's a shokagrast, he's gone mohit hai, even then he is the one who is qualified to receive. What? Vishaya kya hai Gita ka? What is the topic that he should be receiving? The Vishaya is Brahma Vidya, Yoga Shastra. That is the topic of Bhagavad Gita. He is an adhikari to receive this. All the others are not yet in a framework of mind, to receive the knowledge. Even if you give it to them. Puri Gita ke baad bhi, because the framework is not there. So, Arjuna's framework of mind will receive the topic of Brahma Vidya. What is the purpose of this knowledge? Avidya is the karan of samsara. If samsara has to be resolved, vidya has to be there. So prayojan, ultimate prayojan is Brahma Vidya. And Brahma Vidya gives moksha, frees you from samsara. That moksha, being the ultimate goal, prayojan, purpose of the knowledge, relatively making you work towards it, strive for moksha. In the process, the immediate life also gets resolved, solved. You're more lighter. My favorite phrase is, when you take to this knowledge, and especially when you come to Karma Yoga, and if you adopt Karma Yoga in life, I always tell everyone, I said, you almost feel that you're always floating 2 feet above other people. You're with them, but you're somewhere, you're just like heads up. A little heads up always. That gives you that, as if you're flying, you're floating. You're so light in your mind because there are there is inward settings have taken place, which would make you relatively free in life now. So when people say, oh, it handles stress and it will give you formula for success, it will give you formula for, and a lot of people, there's so much of this that has flown in the world that we have missed the real point. Though it is useful to hook on to new people, yes, definitely, but it can also become misleading. All knowledge of the Gita will give you all this anyway byproduct. Success and peace and prosperity and kya, it doesn't even matter at that point. You will learn how to deal with situations. Learn means not that all of us don't know. Most of us may know it, but Shastra stamps it as yes, this is right. And if you're wrong, it tells you this should be the right thing. I hope the sentence is clear. What does Shastra say? Shastra, if you're already in the right mode, it will verify, haan, ye right hai. Gives you greater impetus. And if you're wrong, it just says this is the right thing. So you make a self-correction. And then what is the sambandha? Sambandha between adhikari and vishaya. The one who knows this topic will be mukta, relative, and absolute. And purpose is already with the adhikari. Adhikari should have that purpose also. So with this, Gita becomes a valid Shastra knowledge, body of Gyan, wisdom it gives. And in that knowledge, equips a person from within to pursue the truth steadfastly, convincingly, and keep growing. Self-growth. There is self-growth which becomes a prayojan. So that is the first chapter of the Gita, which is just the introduction. As we said, Gita hasn't yet started. So anybody has any questions so far? Firstly, does anyone, is this making sense, or is this approach working for all of you who are attending? Is it okay?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Yes.
Great. So I can be assured about that. Any questions you have? No, no. It's not an upabad. That's a technique. That's completely different, Dipali. So in the first chapter, any question anybody has?
Yes, Deepti yesterday when Arjun was saying that women will get ruined, and so I get it, that is one possibility, but it's also possible, like, why was he so sure? It is also possible that, they will in fact become more rigid about dharma because, they've lost so many men of the society and they would feel it's their responsibility to give the right values to the children that they already have.
You think averagely people would do that?
Possible.
No. If it was possible, would it not be happening now?
Now is a total.
No.
Yeah, now
No, what the point is, it is a human nature. That is the whole message of the Gita, in fact. If you go by ifs and buts, then that is already a Samskrita. A person's already educated. वो करेगा भी नहीं वो गलती. The point is that where do we slip? In any adversity, how many people come out stronger, better? What is the proportion?
Very less.
less.
That's the point.
Very less.
Very few people will take an adversity to their advantage. Maximum people will only make it situation even worse by slipping into all this negative feelings and emotions that arise. The difficulty of handling a situation is a technique, is actually comes through samskars also. And as I've just said in today's class, most human beings are not separate from another animal. We are just animals. Only those things will come up. What makes us different is the capacity to do thinking and following dharma. So what he has said is actually, averagely, that is what society will go through. And that is why this proportion of Pandavas and Kauravas, this one section that you hear, 100 Kauravas and 5 Pandavas, this balance will never change in society. There will always be greater negative forces. Earth life will be like that. In any era, at any time, if you have more good people on earth, that life is not earth. You're not an earthling. You're living in some swarga. The proportion of negativity versus the good people, vicious versus virtuous people, will always be in 10 to 5, 100 to 5. Within and outside, same. So the knowledge becomes very essential. How does one deal with situations where your own negativity is going to surface? That's your choice. Will you follow dharma at that time, or will you also become one of them? Any other question?
And actually, Rituji,
Sorry, Ji.
in case of Arjuna also, if we see, it's the fear of death of loved ones has erupted, this Vishad in him. So even a person like Arjuna can slip into that. Then the depth and fear of death, it brings the worst out of us till the time we come to the knowledge. And in
Absolutely.
fact, the knowledge also can bring us that samskar, because till the time I think a human being doesn't get the samskar, or that things come up, we cannot even absorb the knowledge properly. Maybe.
Absolutely. Absolutely correct. You see, the fear of death, what does knowledge make us do? वो इतना repeat कर देती है, that the body has to go. And the first portion, so when Krishna starts, you almost get, hey, Arjuna's only asked, what should I do? And Krishna starts by giving him Atma Vidya. It's nothing to do with his present situation. On a battleground where all that it needed was, Krishna should have just told Arjuna there, fight. Finished. No. Krishna starts with Atma marti nahi hai, mari jati nahi hai, Atma ko, etc. He gives a whole Atma Gyan in the very first few verses of chapter 2. His teaching starts with Atma Gyan. So yes, it will bring out the worst. And what then Gita does, I mean, through knowledge, you start to accept that body is so limited and it has to die. It is going to die. So it prepares you to go through the death of loved ones. It prepares you to accept. Acceptance is a very fundamental value to knowledge. Accepting things as they are. Don't resist. Don't expect it to be something else. What is as is, make yourself accept it. Any other question? There was this question. Why did Duryodhana? Because it's a common question. Many people have this in the beginning. Duryodhan, why did he agree for the Dyut Krida itself? Why did he accept the challenge? And he could have withdrawn before losing at least his wife. After all, his dharma as a husband is to protect his wife. So how could he accept a challenge? All of us have this question. The knowledge answer given to that is, which is common, is that as a king, I gave this answer before also, as a king, if someone challenges you, you have to accept it. That's your dharma. Next question then is dharma of a king and dharma of a husband. In Ramayana also you see the same thing happen to Rama. Dharma of a king and dharma of a husband. Now, again, not many people are going to like the answer, but that's the way it is. Dharma of a king means you're a protector of a larger number of people. You are a protector, you're a nourisher of a group of people. Dharma of a husband means you're a protector of wife, one person. Moreover, from the standpoint of dharmas, a husband can expect cooperation from wife. But a king cannot expect cooperation from his subjects to understand his personal problem. And there is a saying which I heard when I was in college, and it has stayed with. I am very bad at quotations. I only remember 2 or 3. This one was it hits very hard. It hit me very hard. Nobody is interested in the storms you encounter. Did you bring in the ship? to a sailor who's sailing, goes through a lot of storms, but people on the shore are only interested. Did the ship come home? Were you able to navigate to bring the ship home? Nobody can understand the nature of the storms you encountered. What difficulties you faced, what struggles you went through. When it comes to public responsibility, the criteria is, did you meet it? So, this is how the dharmas work. In today's context of life, definitely where individualities have equally become important, that it's okay to even sacrifice dharmas. In fact, dharma is to grow your own self. Individual is the dharma now. But Yudhishthir at that point accepted, and I am not sure he accepted this knowing that he's going to be cheated. Knowing that he's going to be cheated. That was his abidance in dharma. There are a lot of ifs that can come. Now I'm answering a very big question, general question. There are a lot of ifs in the story of Mahabharata and Ramayana. If this should not have, if Bhishma had stopped, if Drona had, if the whole knowledge of the Gita is, these ifs are not in our hand all the time. There are so many ifs that happen despite all our effort. And that makes the story of our life. Despite the bestest of intentions, there are ifs that we are not able to avoid in our life. And those ifs are the cause of confusion and moha, exactly how Arjuna went through, or Yudhishthir goes even after the war. Before we saw once, even after the war, it is Yudhishthir who goes through severe depression in that sense, Vishad. When he sees the whole battleground, in Hindi you can call it, in English okay, graveyard, but in Hindi, Shamshan Bhumi tha wo. And when he heard the women crying and wailing, that verse is so powerful, your heart also pierces. The way Vyasa has narrated that verse, women were howling and shouting and crying, and like the verse says, वो जैसे कहते ना, when widows छाती पीट पीट के रोते हैं, that kind of wailing sounds. And when Yudhishthir saw that, he was completely into Vishad. And that is what Krishna's grace on Arjuna was. This is what Arjuna was going before. He was seeing the consequences beforehand and was getting ready to face that consequence. These are some very beautiful, it's very easy to question a story. I mean, it's like Harry Potter. If I have to read, I can change the whole story. If only Harry, fortunately I haven't read it, but if only Harry hadn't gone there. If only whatever, etc. We will miss the whole knowledge if the question goes into those directions. This is a situation of life presented. I will say it is a live situation presented. जैसी है वैसी. हाँ, हमारी जिंदगी में इतनी सिवियर नहीं होती शायद, but I am quite certain every life goes at least one or two such situations which are equivalent as severe as this. There is no life that will not have such. I don't think so. I mean, maybe I cannot generalize, but Bhagavad Gita would be relevant then if there were some lives, majority lives, if they were able to escape this, then Bhagavad Gita would be relevant. Majority lives will have a situation, one or two. Not every day is a situation like that. But they will be extreme for that person. That will shake the person from its roots and foundations. And you will be put on a, as if somebody is testing you. as if you're put on a Shurasya Dhara, you're put on an edge, you're pushed into an edge, as if challenged. So that is what Mahabharata reveals, and that's it's a very, I think there is nothing more precious in knowledge. There is no system of knowledge on earth. Now, I can't say I have read many, certainly not, but nothing is as parallel as this, which will give you live situation as if तुम्हारे आंखों के आगे हो रही है, and you have to extract knowledge. Such a thing happens. This is your code of conduct. This is the way you maneuver your life. This is the way you do. For what? So that you do not slip into samsara. Prayers is your goal. Is that okay? So we should end. First chapter done. I think revision enough. Now you shouldn't forget the first chapter, Hannah. I don't think so. Most of us won't forget. Now I don't know. I will send the only to people who attend the class. I think I'll send the question because the list is at least 30 people. 35 have enrolled. So I do not know who all to send the. But your choice, if you want, like Akanksha said, it helps her. If it helps you, you can attempt the questions. They'll be very general. Not to worry if you can't. Keep them. Do them whenever you want them. If you want to. Keep them as a yardstick of memory. अच्छा ये भी था, because by the time third chapter will come, first chapter में क्या था, I don't know. By the time real teaching starts also, all that you have derived from the first teaching is, and I would say take a week of reflection, point of reflection. Sansar को समझना, if you can go and understand this as well and closely to your lives as possible, what is called samsara, then that urge arises. All right. So thank you, everyone. No questions. So can someone conclude the class?
Shall I do it?
Yes, please.
सर्वेषां स्वस्तिर्भवतु, सर्वेषां शान्तिर्भवतु, सर्वेषां पूर्णं भवतु, सर्वेषां मङ्गलं भवतु, सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्. ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः.
And see you next week.
Thank you so much,
Hariom
Deepti ji.
Deepti ji, thank you.
Thank you
Thank you
so
very
much.
much.
Thank you.
Hariom.
Thank you, Deepti ji.